You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and OMG, I just wrapped up recording this episode. You are absolutely going to love my guest because today we're talking about why you need to simplify to scale with Crista Grasso. She has been a client of mine for a while now, and I did not realize all the goodness and the smarts that she had inside of her. Like, I knew about her program, but I didn't know all the ins and out of it. And this is going to be so helpful to you and your business, and not only just running your business leaner and be able to scale, but you just have to wait. Okay. So let me just tell you a little bit about Crista. She is an international lean and agile business consultant to Fortune 50 multiple billion-dollar businesses, a strategic advisor to 6 to 8 figure small business and entrepreneurs, and the creator of the Lean Out Method, 90-day Lean Out Planner, and the Lean Business Scaling System. She's also the host of the Lean Out Your Business podcast, where she shares her top strategies to simplify and scale a business. Crista has been helping businesses achieve accelerated and sustainable results and increase profitability for more than 2 decades. I am telling you, you are not going to want to miss this, because today is all about why you need to simplify in order to scale with Crista Grasso. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to the show. I am so excited because today joining me is Crista Grasso. Welcome to the show, Crista.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I know, we were talking the other day how this is so long overdue. We've just been like talking, and we're like, hey, by the way, why haven't we been on each other's podcast? It's so kind of cool too. I think we get in our own worlds of what we're doing in our businesses, but then it's like, oh my gosh, we have so much goodness to share with each other's audience, right? And so today is all about why you need to simplify to scale. So I can't wait to dive in. But before we do, like, I know how awesome you are. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your journey, what you do, who you help, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder of a company called the Lean Out Method, and my specialty is really helping businesses scale in simple and sustainable ways. And I've done this for some of the largest businesses in the world for more than 22 years. And I, at one point, after launching my own jewelry business, actually realized that there was a lot that is done in these very large corporations that smaller businesses and entrepreneurs are not leveraging, or are leveraging incorrectly, and it's slowing them down, and it's overcomplicating their path to scaling their business. And so I took some of what I have been brought in by Fortune 10, Fortune 50, Fortune 500 clients, and looked at, how does this apply to a small business? How does this apply to a coaching or consulting or service-based or online digital business in today's environment? And I took a lot of those concepts, and that's what I help my clients do, is really look at how they can simplify and how they can scale in a way where they don't have to work all the time. They don't have to constantly be doing more, and feel like they have to chase every bright, shiny object that comes out, which there's no shortage of temptation to do that. So that's a lot of what I do in my journey. Lean Out Method was kind of born as a need in my own business, which I had made overcomplicated, scaled too quickly, almost put myself out of business. And I had to find a way to really save that business. So I took these concepts, applied it to my own, and never looked back, and have been using it with businesses for almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So wait, so were you ever in corporate?
Oh,
Yeah.
I spent 22 years in 21
Wow.
years in corporate. And I ebbed and flowed between being an external consultant, being an employee, being a contractor. I've kind of played all the roles, worn all the hats, but usually I go into these companies to do large scale transformations and transform the way they work, transform the way they hire and lead teams, transform the way that they bring products to market. And I spend a lot of time on the back end, because what people don't realize is when they see see companies scaling, they see the cool, sexy front end stuff, the new products that are coming out, the marketing campaigns that they're doing. What they don't realize is those companies are spending just as much time being operationally efficient and putting systems in place and up-leveling their teams so they have high-performing teams. And there's all this stuff that happens behind the scenes that's what enables them to do what the rest of us see out in the world.
I love that. And you know what? You're so right, because just in any business, like we see that the outside of what's going on and we're like, oh, so easy, so simple, and everything's just perfect. But there's so many moving parts, and even just systems that you have to have in place in order for it to run so smoothly, right? What did cause you to leave corporate to do your own thing? I'm just curious.
So for anyone who's ever worked in corporate or who's consulted in corporate, I think you know that that environment can sometimes be a little toxic. And what happened for me, as unfortunately happens for so many other people, is I had a really big health scare. I was diagnosed with breast cancer. At this point, I'm fine. But it's sometimes when you have those really major things where you actually are faced with your own future, looking at your future and saying, am I even going to be here? Am I doing what I really love? Is this the thing that I'm that passionate about? And I realized I was passionate about the work, but not about the place I was doing the work. And I wanted to take what I was doing and I wanted to work more with entrepreneurs in smaller businesses where I felt like I could be so close to the transformation and I could help them make a difference and like carve years off of their scaling journey and really feel like I was almost a part of their team in a way. I just got so much more fulfillment from that work that I was doing, which was about 20% of where I was spending my time, than the 80%, which was with my corporate clients. A lot of times when you're making changes in a company and they don't want me there, but you work with their next level managers down and they're pushing back every step of the way. They're like, no, we've done it this way for, decades. We don't want to change. And so it was just a very high stress environment. And I wanted to be where I felt more fulfilled. And I kind of came to this realization that good wasn't good enough. Things were good from the outside. Things were good. Excellent, revenue coming in, reliable. I didn't really have to market or sell. I'm pretty known in that space. So I just had opportunities come to me. It was kind of the dream for a lot of people from the outside looking in, but inside out, it was not the dream at all. I feel like it was literally killing me. So I made the decision to change.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing that, because I think what happens a lot of time is we get stuck in this, oh, like it has to be this way, or I'm going to settle for this. And unfortunately, like you said, it takes that breaking point, whether it be mentally, physically, your health, whatever that is, where you are like, okay, enough is enough. So anybody that's listening to this, because I too did 30 years in a job that, yes, I did, like you say, it's like that love-hate type of thing. It's like, maybe you're meant for something more, you would like to try something more, but it's a little nerve-wracking. And to take the jump, because it is possible on the other side to be just happy, right? And to live life. And it's not just all about working or, with the people and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's so important. And I admire you for doing all this, because your work is like amazing. So let's dive into when we're talking about businesses and you're talking about like lean, like getting lean and having all this going in, where are some places that people or businesses are leaving money on the table?
The list is long. How many hours do we have to talk? So I'll hit a few of the high points, because if for anyone who is familiar with Lean kind of grew up in the manufacturing world. It's later been adapted more to like a software development type world. It's used a lot in big businesses. And in each of those types of environments, there's areas of waste that have been identified. And a lot of the companies I've gone in and consulted with, I've been brought in to help them eliminate some of that waste, become more operationally efficient, which the sexy part of that means you become much more profitable and you're able to get products out to market quicker. So I looked at that and said, this is great for these types of businesses, but what about for our types of businesses? Where do we have waste in our business? And I identified 10 areas that I see really commonly across any kind of coaching, consulting, or online, more service-based business. And just a few of them are unnecessary complexity. That's probably number one. one. It's one of the first things I address when I work privately with clients, because things just get so complex and feel so heavy, and there's so many moving parts that it can be really hard to get things done quickly. You end up feeling really trapped and stuck in your business, and like you can't move as quick as you'd like, or you can't even spend your time doing the things that you want to do because you're stuck making all the decisions. You're stuck kind of being the one who holds all the knowledge because things are just so complex. So unnecessary complexity is a big one for sure. Another one is what I call fragmentation. And so what I mean by that is we have all of these different individual strategies that we're applying in our business, but they don't ever really fit together into one cohesive whole to actually achieve the vision that we have for our business. And I like to use a puzzle analogy. So if you think of a puzzle, in the picture on the puzzle is that long-term vision of success that you have for your business. The outer edges, like the corners and the outer edges, are your business model and your operating model. Each of the individual pieces are the way that you go about getting there. They're the different strategies that you try. There's 1,001 different ways you can achieve your unique vision. Doesn't always feel that way, but there's a ton of options. It's up to figuring out how do you want to build your puzzle and build your picture in order to get there in the simplest, most direct path possible. And what I see is people have a puzzle with missing pieces. People have a puzzle with all these bonus pieces in. There's pieces that don't fit together because we take these individual things that we hear, or we see this person over there doing something, or, ooh, for our business, we should have this type of business model. And we just start implementing these individual strategies. And even if they're good on their own, they don't come together. And in doing so, you end up working way harder. You end up not getting the results that you want. And it's one of the root causes of just so much waste in a business. And people don't realize it because they're like, I'm going to go figure out how to do LinkedIn over here, and I'm going to go figure out how to do this over here. And they're not thinking strategically about how it all fits together. And I think that's super important.
For sure, for sure. I love that. And it's funny because where my head goes wasting money, it's like, okay, dollars, right? Like literally where, what tools am I using? What ad, whatever. Where yours, if you think about it, it's like all this other money that we're not even thinking that we're spending because we're not literally spending, the dollars, right? However, it's costing us a ton of money with our time and the possibility of what's avoiding us, right? Of not generating revenue coming in. Oh my gosh. This is so great to see it from this perspective.
It's true because there is clear money left on the table. If you look, one of the other areas of waste is underutilized resources. So if you look at all of the things that you're spending money on that you're not using, that you could just cancel or, change, you could get money back right away. But I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I've seen really commonly is most people waste 10 hours or more per week. The number one reason, and it's usually our fault, is what I call visionary-itis. And as the visionary of the business, what do we love to do? We love to create, we love to innovate, we love to come up with new ideas. We're great starters. We're not always good finishers. And when it comes to the work we're doing or the work we're having our team doing, we need to be really careful that we're not constantly doing these starts and stops. And the project is underway, it's almost done, you're almost ready to release it and actually start generating some revenue from it. But because you had a brilliant idea at breakfast that morning, you're like, no, let's go do this.
It's really it's a bad thing. It's like a good thing and a bad thing, right? So it's like, how do we hone it in? Well, I guess it's more being self-aware. Like, okay, wait, I'm doing this now. Let me stop, or let me write it down so I don't lose the thought, but let me love it for later. It's funny because I met with a client and he was like, gave me this is what I want to do. And like, he wouldn't stop. He was just like, he just kept going. I couldn't type fast enough to write all his ideas. And then I'm like, and they all sounded amazing, of course, because I'm like, oh, we could do this. And then I'm like, okay, which one do you want to start with? And it was like, I don't know. Right. So it's so funny when you're like, okay, dialing in on that. Well, speaking of like those type of things of what you're wasting, what are some of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make when it comes to now scaling your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the other things that probably is a byproduct of us being natural innovators and very creative is that when we think of scaling, we think of more, we think of addition. We think of scaling as addition, and really successful scaling has just as much, if not more, subtraction as it does addition. And this is where I think you have to simplify as you scale. So if you just think about this practically for a moment, right? What does scaling do? Scaling amplifies what you have and it gives you more of what you already have. So sometimes people try to scale as a way to fix problems in the business. You don't want to do that because you're giving yourself more of what you already have. If you're already overworked, if you're already overwhelmed, if you're already not profitable, scaling isn't going to fix those things. It's going to amplify those things. But what ends up happening is if you have kind of all the things going on and you try to scale, you're scaling all the things, you're scaling all that noise, all that complexity, all that overwork, all that overwhelm. And you end up with a business model that's not sustainable. And where you might see some short-term wins, you end up putting yourself on the hustle hamster wheel where you have to keep constantly doing more and more to be driving in revenue and to have that, solid cash flow, because you don't have that sustainable, long-term, simple model. And so I think you have to simplify first. If you think of a funnel where it's wide on the top, it's wide on the bottom, or I'm sorry, an hourglass where it's wide on the top, wide on the bottom, and pinched in the middle. It's like when you're in the growth phase of business, you're just trying to grow as much as possible. You got all these things going in the top. You need to figure out what those very few things are that's going to go through the point at the middle. And that's what you amplify. So you want to look at, what do I actually want to scale? I can't scale all the things. I don't want to scale all the things. All the things are a distraction and actually slowing down my results and making it harder to get where I want to be. What are the few things that are working really well that I want to go all in on? And that's what you want to scale. So I think that, you have to really truly simplify before you scale if you want sustainable scaling, which is what it's all about. Otherwise, you're just constantly chasing bright, shiny objects and trying to get those quick wins. And you can never really get to a place where you could step away from the business. You never get your time back. You never get your freedom back. And that's what scaling is really all about.
I've never heard the hourglass perspective, and I love that, because that's the picture in my mind was exactly what it needs to be. So what do you say to somebody when they're like, okay, wait a minute, you're telling me to get rid of, like, let's say, to simplify, maybe it's just with your products, like, let's focus on 3 or 2 or whatever, and not the 20 that you have. And what do you tell someone when they're like, okay, but wait a minute, now you're telling me to maybe get rid of some revenue that's coming in so I could just focus on this, that whole, can I hold myself over to do what you're telling me to do?
Yeah, it's scary. It's really scary, right? I mean, when I made the shift from no longer working with corporate clients, not only did 80% of my time come from corporate clients, but 80% of my revenue came from corporate clients. So cutting off that revenue stream was a huge risk in the business, but I also knew that that was directionally where I needed to go. And so you sometimes just make those tough decisions and you roll with it. But there's ways to actually look at it. And I think sometimes we're kidding ourselves in thinking that all 20 of those products are producing the same results in our business and we can't actually live without them. And I have something that I call the Ppv Matrix. It's a blend of passion, profit, value. And you look at, how much personal fulfillment does it provide for you and how directionally aligned is it with where you want to take the business in the future and for your next level. That's the passion component. The profit component is how much profit is it actually generating for the business, right? And this isn't just how much revenue is it bringing in, like how profitable is it? How much time and headache and energy and frustration and all of those things are you pouring into that particular offer in order to sell it? And then value for your clients is how valuable is it to them? Not how valuable you think it is for them, but how valuable do they think it is? And that's where you're getting into something called a net promoter score or other things where you're really analyzing customer feedback and how much people refer you new business and tell other people to join your program or work with you. And if you really look at your offers through that lens, what you'll usually find is there's a couple that stand out as being that really right blend of passion, profit, value. And there's a few that would have a lot of work to ever really get to the point that it makes sense to continue. And so what I usually tell people is it's okay if you don't want to say goodbye to those things forever, but they're not your focus right now. Like shift all of your energy to your top 1 to 3 and really focus in there. And the other thing is everything we do in business when it comes to our offer suite should be customer journey aligned. We need to be really clear on who our customer is, and we need to be clear on the journey that we're trying to take them on. And if you look at that, sometimes what people find is those 20 little offers can actually become 3 really strategic offers that help take a customer on a journey. So you're not just doing these one-off, sales to clients, but you have something next for them. So they're continuing to up level and retain with you and get deeper and deeper results and transformation. So I think you just have to reimagine how you look at it. And if you can take the time to do that, it's so much less headache. It's so many less moving parts. It's so much more sustainable. And when you get past the initial panic of, oh my God, I'm cutting off all my revenue streams. Is my whole business going to fail? Am I going to make no money? Right? Usually you'll find that you actually really quickly get better results with a lot less effort, but you have to look at it strategically. It's not just I'll pick this one.
Right. Yeah. And I love what you're saying. And I think that the whole idea is kind of like that, what you focus on grows type of thing. So it's even looking, and you had even said it before or you said it with the value, like, do your customers see it as value? And even when we're talking about the whole wasting of time and the fragmentation, right? So are you also giving your clients, are you making them fragmented with the different offers, or are they aligned and working together to get them that ultimate transformation or result that they want? So a lot of times that we're just putting this out and they're like, wait a minute, does this even go together? Like you were saying on that journey. Oh my God, I love that. I knew you were so smart, but I was like, I didn't know you were this smart. Okay. I'm just kidding. But kind of. Like, cause we talk about your stuff all the time. And I'm like, but even just hearing a little bit more and how you explain things, I'm like, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense with everything and what you're putting out there. So when you're talking about like components in order to scale, like I guess a simple sustainable scaling, is there something in addition to this PPV?
Yeah, so when I think about what it really takes to have a simple, sustainable, and scalable business model, it comes down to the right blend of strategy, planning, systems, and team. And something that's baked into all of that is insights. It's your metrics, right? You have to measure both from a quantitative and a qualitative perspective what's working, what's not working, and be willing to make those constant shifts and adjustments so that you're getting better and better results from the things that you're doing. And so I think you have to have those 4 components together in order to get there. And so strategy, again, back to our puzzle analogy, what are all the different things that you're going to do and commit to in order to actually get the vision in place for your business, in order to get that results that you want to do? Then when you look at your planning, that's like, I have an entire lean strategic planning system. This is something I've done for decades, and it's just a really efficient but flexible way to plan so that you can both achieve your goals, achieve your vision, but you have space for innovation and you have space to be adaptable, because you don't want an overly prescriptive plan. It doesn't fit for our type of business model or our type of brains. It just doesn't. We won't use it if we have something that's too overly restrictive. So you have to have the planning that's like, okay, I've got all these strategies. I know the vision. How am I going to get there? And what specifically are we going to focus on in the next 90 days? What are the revenue targets that we're going after, and how are we going to achieve them? Then when it comes to systems, right? Systems are really all about getting repeatable results. So what do you want to repeat? What do you want to get better results with? Where do you want to eliminate all of the inconsistencies so that you can be confident at all points in time that no matter who's working on something, no matter what's happening, you have a certain level of quality, you have a certain level of value that you're providing. Things are done in a consistent way so people have a consistent experience, whether it's a new team member that's onboarding or whether it's a new client that's hiring you and then onboarding or offboarding from working with you. And then finally, team, right? You can't do it without team. You really can't scale without strategy, planning, systems, and team. And so I think you want to strategically build up your team based on who you need, so you can surround yourself, so you stay in your zone of genius, you do what you do best and what only you can do, and you have the right people to support you around you.
I love this. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And it all flows so nicely together. Can we talk a little bit about the planning? Because I know for some people it's like even me, like it's like I think I'm planning right. And then sometimes we get to the place where we're like, oh, I wanted to do this, but I didn't, right? Or I'm letting something go in the way. So what is when you were saying, I love when you said the space for innovation, because a lot of times, even though we're trying not to be the doer or we're trying not to be in the weeds and let the team handle it, a lot of times we find ourselves going there or think like doing these other things versus the innovation. But the innovation is what's going to keep us going and evolving and growing, right? And more importantly, providing that value to our clients. So why is the lean strategic planning a better fit for entrepreneurs than traditional planning?
Yeah, traditional planning, honestly, it works really well in a very large company if you're doing strategic planning at that level. What I think a lot of people confuse with planning in a business is actual bottoms up planning. They're doing something that's meant for an individual and trying to apply it to a team and to a business, and that doesn't work. So the typical like kind of bottoms up planning approach doesn't work. You need an actual strategic planning, more top down planning approach. But when you look at most of the models that are on the market, they're really heavy, they're really complex, and they're way too prescriptive and restrictive. They lock you into knowing exactly what you're going to do for the next 90 days or whatever your planning cycle is. And that's just not our world. Things move so quickly, things are so dynamic. I mean, even think with Facebook ads, right? How often do things change where you have to pivot all the time? And the plan that you thought you were going to follow, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to look and say, you know what, I'm getting zero traction with this. I need to quickly pivot and try to reimagine how I'm approaching this so that I get the results that I want. And so we need a planning approach that's very adaptive, but you can't wing your way to success. You can't wing your way to 7 figures and beyond. You just can't, as much as many of you probably to stickly can't. So you have to be able to very clearly look at your vision, look at your goals, break that down into certain categories, right? So what's it going to take to run the business and keep things going? And as the CEO of your business, very few of those things should be on your calendar. Those are the first things that you want to delegate out to others, but you have to run your business and do more type stuff. That's just what keeps your business afloat. So that's part of it. You've got your client fulfillment. So what are you delivering on based on people who've already said yes to work with you, whether it's one-on-one work, group programs, services that you're providing. So you've got that kind of comes off the top. What's left is room for strategic initiatives. That's what are you going to do? What are the specific projects you're going to work on? What are the marketing campaigns that you're going to be focused on, right? Projects is kind of like the behind the scenes back end stuff that you're doing. Marketing campaigns is more the customer facing, what people are seeing, they fit together. And that's what you're doing. And so you have to look at, for the next 90 days, what can I do when I look at these different buckets? What's it going to take to actually achieve my goals and my revenue targets? And where do we need to be focusing our efforts? And I think you want to be really intentional with that. And you also want to understand your capacity. Because what I think most people do is their eyes are bigger than their stomachs. And they think, this is great. I'm going to do this and this and this. And it's possible if you tripled your team size to get that done in the next 90 days.
Right.
But because you're not considering capacity, you don't end up actually creating a plan that's realistic. So what I always say is know your capacity and leave a 30% buffer, because that 30% is where you have space for pivots and innovations. It's where you have space for things taking way longer than you expected them to take, because we tend to remember things taking less time than they actually took if we're doing them again. And those things that you just simply can never plan for, that come out of left field, that cause you to have to reimagine what you're focused on. It gives you space for that too. So that's a little bit about lean strategic planning and how it works. And then there's a whole lot of lean strategies mixed in to really help people be as productive as possible, so that you are getting your products and your offers to market faster, you are generating revenue faster, you're retaining your clients more, and really looking at that customer journey.
I love this. And it's so, I love that you have understand your capacity. This is what I don't do. Because I'm like, yes, I can do more than most people. And then I go, 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 go. And then like usually either a Saturday or Sunday, I tell my husband, oh my God, Danny, I can't keep my eyes open. And the whole day, literally, I end up sleeping or I'm just so physically, mentally drained and exhausted because I way exceeded my capacity, right? But I don't want to say like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, no, I could, because the other thing that you said also too that stuck out to me when you were talking about the 4 pillars of the strategy, it's like things that you're going to commit to. And I think that's where a lot of people, they don't really commit to. They're just like, okay, yeah, we'll do da, but they're not making the commitment to themselves. So since I commit to myself that I'm going to do this come hell or high water, but I don't have the capacity part down. So I love that you pointed that out. But you have a planner. Can you share where everybody can find the planner? Because I'm sure it follows this method, right? Something easy for us to do.
It does. Yeah, if you go to leanoutplanner.com, you'll find my 90-day planner. So I've basically taken my lean out method model and I've put it into a planner format. So a lot of what I teach you can do. And it really, the goal of the planner is to help you achieve more by doing less. And that sounds, when people say that, they're like, yeah. But if you think about the fact that you're probably spending a lot of time on things that don't matter, and if you get that clarity around what does matter, what should I be committed to? What shouldn't I be spending any time on, or at least not time on right now? You can actually get results a lot faster by putting less effort in. And if you do capacity-based planning, it seems like you have less hours to work with, but you'll be surprised how much more you actually get done because you will finish things instead of just being constantly busy with a lot of time put in, but not anything to show for it. So that's all built into the planner.
Yeah, I love that. And it's you'll finish, so you're getting like you're making progress. And that was something my husband always said, like, Michelle, if you're not progressing, it's like you're pouting. And I'm like, yes. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event and he's like, that's an actual human nature thing where you have to be progressing. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially small business entrepreneurs, if we're not seeing some movement in that needle, everybody talks about, oh, you have to do this to move the needle. And then it's like, you're not seeing the needle move. Then it's like, well, what am I doing? Right. So with this plan and this type of planning, you're definitely not only going to be moving the needle, but you'll be progressing and actually get there. You know what I mean? Versus just being in the same place you were where you started a year from now, 2 years from now. And that's what one of the the biggest things we don't want to happen. So this is awesome. Can we talk about, because one of the things that you said, like you're doing more by doing less, and then does that come into the team, I guess, aspect, either assigning things out, and then what would you to say to somebody who is like, well, I don't know if I can afford a team, or I have these people and I really want to, how do you address that? Whether they're in the transition from going maybe to solopreneur, maybe just 1 or 2, to then expand to more people on the team to help them scale.
Oh yeah, I could talk about team again for days. I've done so over the course of probably about the past 30 years. I've had so many different teams in so many different shapes and sizes. And I think that's the thing, is team isn't just a team of full-time employees that are all full-time with benefits and profit sharing and all of these things that I think people tend to think of when they hear team, and it scares them a little bit. I've had teams that are huge matrix teams all over the world, where I've had, teams of teams of teams. I've had small little teams where we were all co-located in the same office back when people actually used to go places in person. And distributed teams of people kind of all over the US or all over the world as well. And the thing that I think has always been consistent and is always my goal with teams is I want a self-run team and I want a high-performing team. That is always my mission when I have a team. It doesn't matter the business, the size, the type, the makeup. So whether they're full-time employees, whether they're freelancers and contractors, that's the goal that I'm always going after. And I think that should be your goal as well. Now, when you're making your first hire, You are going to be trying to figure out, how do I manage a team? What do I give this person? How do I delegate? There's a lot of growing pains in getting used to leading a team. So in the beginning, you're not going to be there. But as you're building the team up, I think that should be your goal and what you want to go into it with that kind of end in mind. And I'd say, don't hold yourself back. If you are still a solopreneur, you absolutely need some level of support, but don't feel like you have to go out and hire this big group of people full time. Look at what's the most important thing that would free up your time so that you could not only do more of the things you love, but more of the things that are going to move the needle in the business, as you said. More of the things that are going to help you drive more revenue, bring in higher profitability so you can actually expand the time that person's working or hire more people. And so it can feel very chicken and egg in the business. I need the money to hire, but I need to hire to make the money.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of hiring the full-time person, hire somebody that can free you up, even if it's 5 hours a week, if it's 1 day a week, whatever you can do. And just be really intentional with that time, that you're allocating it towards those things that are going to help you bring in the revenue or do the things that are increase your profit margin so that you have the room to bring in more people. And that's the way that you want to approach it. And when it comes to managing that team so that they are self-running, they are self-led, and they are high performing, I always say there's kind of 3 V's that go into it. There's vision, values, and visionary leadership. So you need to be clear on what your vision and values are, and you only hire people that align with your values and that are fully bought into your vision, where it almost feels like their vision as well. You want them to be so passionate about what you're doing that the company feels like it's their company. They're not waiting for you to tell them what to do. They're taking personal accountability and ownership over things. I call it inspired ownership, because they're like, I know where we're going. I know what my role is. Hey, I'm going to do this. What do you think about me doing this? You want people naturally taking that inspired ownership. You don't want to have to be the person that's constantly telling people what to do, checking in on every single thing that they did, criticizing all the things that they did because they didn't do it right. And that's where a combination of systems and really strong communication and meeting structures come in, where they're meaningful, they're helpful, they're things people look forward to, as opposed to it feeling like you just wasted an hour of your life and something that could have been handled in an email.
Right? Oh my goodness. This was so good. Thank you for sharing this, because I think what happens is, you're right, everybody gets overwhelmed, right? And really what I have found based on my experience and people I've talked to is they're solely focusing on what it's going to, again, the dollars, right? What it's going to cost them up front, but you're not taking into consideration what it's going to bring you, right? Not just revenue wise, even going back to some of what Crista was saying, it's like for you to enjoy, for you not to be stressed out, for you to have these things and be able to really help more people, because that's why we're getting into business, right? Is for freedom and to help people. So I love this. And then I love that the inspired ownership and have them self-run. It's like, yes, this is what I know. And they're so bought in on your vision. This was amazing. Okay. Anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
Can I share one of my favorite techniques that'll help you all get some time back in your day?
Yeah.
Okay, so I developed something called Chuck, and you'll find this in the planner, and it stands for Cut, Hold, Change, Keep. And every 30 days and every 90 days, I think what you want to do in your business is you want to look at all of the activities that you're doing, have your team do this as well. And then also look at your offers and look at the individual components of your offers. And there's 4 questions that you want to look at, but really you want to see, is this still fulfilling and aligned directionally with where we want to take the business next? Are we getting a good enough return on investment for the effort, time, or money that we're putting into this? And you want to just look through those lenses and say, is this something that can be cut? Is this maybe something that worked before and made sense before? It's not aligned with where we're going. I don't love doing it. We're not getting a good return. Like, we just need to free up space for something new and get rid of this entirely. So cutting things, really helpful. That gives you space back in your calendar. It's something, you don't want to keep adding without subtracting. So this is looking at what can be subtracted out. hold is, it's something that's important, but I don't need to be focused on it right now. When I look at my 90-day plans, this is not something we need to be putting effort in right now. So it goes in the hold bucket. And anything you can put in cut and hold gives you, again, space for innovation, space for new things, space to make sure you're not overworked and overwhelmed. And then when you look at what does make sense to keep doing in your business, it's either going to go into the keep or change bucket. Keep, it's working great as is. You don't need to put any focus on it right now, but change is where the magic comes in. Change is optimization. So you've got things that are working in your business, or you know that are important in your business. What are small changes that you can make to them that are going to give you bigger and bigger results, right? Instead of building a whole new offer and going off and launching it, is there a change that you could make that'll get you better conversions from your current offer? So you always want to be looking through that lens of what can I cut? What can I change? What can I hold? What can I keep? And if you just look at your calendar and the activities that you have going on right now, I guarantee you will find some things that you're probably doing that you can stop doing or put on hold and get time back right away. But this will also help you strategically keep improving your business, so you're getting better and better results from the things you're already doing without always having to invest tons of time, money, and energy into new and different risky things.
Oh my gosh, Chuck all the way. I love that. That was so good. Okay, we are going to get into Michelle's hot minute. I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions. So just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Let me just set my alarm for 1 minute. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Best rock band of all time.
Poison, hands down, no question asked.
I don't know. Does that date us with the Poison, right?
Obsessed with Bret Michaels. It can date me all day long. I'm good with that.
Okay. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, espresso.
Okay. Favorite book?
The Big Leap.
Your next travel destination?
I'm going to, where am I going? Austin in 2 weeks.
Your favorite way to de-stress?
Floating in the pool or anything with water.
What do you wish someone taught you a long time ago?
That failure is okay and just part of the journey, and it's one big experiment, and don't take it so darn seriously.
And what tells you most about a person?
How present they are.
I love that. Well, thank you. That was so much fun. I so appreciate you, Crista, for coming on the show today. Can you tell people where to find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at leanoutmethod.com. And if you want that guide with the top 10 wastes that we talked a little bit about, you can find that at leanoutmethod.com/waste.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Well, there you have it. Why you need to simplify in order to scale with Crista Grasso. Definitely go check her out. I'll drop where you can find her, the waste, right? Get rid of the waste, as well as the planner in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed the show. And thanks again, Crista, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Until next time, let's grow your business together.